be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. Jesus said to the apostles, "Who among you would say to your servant who has just come in from plowing or tending sheep in the field, 'Come here immediately and take your place at table'? Would he rather not say to him, 'Prepare something for me to eat. Put on your apron and wait on me while I eat and drink. You may eat and drink when I am finished'? Is he grateful to the servant because he did what was commanded? So should it be with you. When you have done all you have been commanded, say, 'We are unprofitable servants. We have done what we were obliged to do.'" The Gospel of the Lord. I don't think this will scandalize anyone. If it does, I apologize ahead of time. I think it might shock people, but not necessarily scandalize people. But I hated seminary. It was not fun for me. And there were many reasons why I didn't like seminary, and they were all my fault, of course. One was because I was stubborn and arrogant, and we could get more into that, but we might be here all day. But the seminary, they try to prepare you for the promises that you might make as a priest. Those promises are obedience, celibacy, and prayer. Most people think that celibacy is the most difficult one. Got news for you. Obedience. And on the surface, obedience seems like it's pretty innocuous. I invite you to do a little brain and thought experiment. Imagine I'm going to tell you a bit about your future, and it's all you need to know. And in your future, you're going to have a job, and you're going to move around a lot. It's going to be the same. You're going to try not to inconvenience you a lot, but it's just you're going to move around a lot. And you have to hear about your weaknesses a lot. And you might say to yourself, "Well, I'm a confident person. Confident in myself. You know who I am." That sounds pretty banal. Someone just telling me I have to move from this branch of my work to another branch of my work. I mean, it doesn't seem like it's that big of a deal. And you might be right, considering what I have just told you. Now I'm going to throw a curveball. Imagine that you're going to have this job where you have to move around a lot. And you have to hear about your weaknesses. Now imagine that person telling you you have to move around a lot is someone that you can't stand. Someone who is a moron. Well, it makes obedience a little bit tougher, doesn't it? See, on the surface, obedience seems like it's an easy thing for us to deal with. But when we get down to it, the emotions that are on us, our egos, make it quite the challenge. But as we take that understanding into our hearts, and as we hear in our gospel passage what Jesus says, that obedience is a part of our lives. The most important thing that we think we have to understand when we are in a position where we have to obey someone is this. And it's the absolute truth, my friends. We never have all the information we need to make good decisions. We never do. So sometimes we just have to do what we're told. It's hard. And we struggle through it. But we don't always have all the information we need. And that's what Jesus is getting at today. And that's why Jesus is telling us this difficult task. And he's giving us this difficult task. This idea that we have to obey and do our duty. Because sometimes the people who are in charge of us know a little bit more information than we do. And it's more difficult for them. They have the higher responsibility. They take the risk. When they make the mistake, it's on them. They're the ones who are the ones that made that decision. I don't envy that position, and I don't necessarily want to be in that position. People say, Father Chris, what if you're made a bishop someday? And I'm like, don't say it. I don't want to be. I don't want to be Pope either. That's a position that you have that tremendous responsibility. So, my friends, as we continue to pray today, let us pray for that wisdom to continue to understand what it means to obey, and to then have that humbleness and humility to recognize why it's undue. And not to push and bury ourselves and bury that personal ego and say that ego that we have is something that's awful. We all have it. It's human nature. We don't have to beat ourselves up. We don't have to beat ourselves up when we have someone who's in charge of us who we might just not like. That's okay. Because Jesus didn't call us to like everyone. He called us to love everyone. Brothers and sisters, with trust in God's loving will, let us make our requests known to Him.